Hi everyone. Well, as you've probably heard already, there is some colder weather on the way. In fact, we mentioned it was going to be colder earlier in the week, that as we move through Sunday into Monday, so much colder weather will arrive, and somewhat drier compared to what we've had. But there is some uncertainty how cold it's going to get and what the risk of snow is. So we're going to run through a couple of the weather charts to give you a bit of an idea of what we're seeing from this end. So we'll start off with the synoptic chart as we always do, but instead of overlaying the winds like we also often do, we're going to have a look at the isobars and show you the pattern of where these low pressure areas are going. And as you can see, the wind arrows here, if you can see that, and if you're using a phone, you may have to zoom in a little bit, but if you can see this, all right, you can see that the wind arrows follow these isobars, so they move the low pressures, for example, move in an anti-clockwise direction with high pressure moving clockwise. But yes, so let's run through this, and you can see as we move through tomorrow and then into Monday, you see this little area of low pressure develop and run through, well, just to the south of us really. And this is one of the little problem or troublemakers or little problems that we're going to have, because it's very uncertain to how this is going to develop and evolve if this pattern develops. But we'll run it through a little bit further. So this is the global model that we often use, and you can see further little areas of low pressure moving through on Tuesday, and then as we run through even further, there's some little wiggles in the isobars moving southwards, which shows further areas of little areas of low pressure moving through. And so yes, it's very difficult to know exactly where they're going to develop, or if they're even going to develop at all. So let's move on to the French model that we always use. And as you can see, it starts much the same with this large area of low pressure here over Scotland. Now, as we run this one through, you'll start to see a difference. So the little area of low pressure that develops is just a little bit further south. So let's compare these. So the global model is showing it a little bit further north as it runs through the channel. We can go back one frame there, and you can see it running right through the English Channel here and off to our southeast. But if we use the French model, you can see it's a little bit further south, and it actually runs across France and then just skims the southern half of the English Channel. And this is very important because around this little system we're going to see precipitation, which will fall it'll fall mostly as rain through the channel, but it could fall as snow in places away from the coast. So you can see here the precipitation, the rainfall on the French model again, and we'll flip back one last time to the global model, and you can see that in just this little area here, it's ever so slightly further north, and the rain and snow is a little bit further north, which means it's more likely to affect us. So jump back one last time back to the French model, backwards and forwards, and you can see another difference here. So when that second area of low pressure comes in on Tuesday on the global model, it also runs close to us, whereas on the French model it's right down here, right down towards the south of France really, and so that's a really large difference, and that would mean that really after based on the French model, after perhaps a little bit of wintry weather on Monday, it would be mostly dry with perhaps just the odd wintry shower. Whereas if we base it on the global model, there's a good chance of seeing some snow. So seeing as the global model is the one that brings the precipitation over us, let's have a little look at that a little bit closer in. So you can see tomorrow night, Sunday night, early hours of Monday morning, you can see this really heavy rainfall, and you see this little bit here which is showing snow, and that moves towards us as we move towards 3 a.m. and we actually do on the global model see some snow affecting the island. It would be wet snow, so it is unlikely to be showing anything on the ground, but you know, it couldn't be completely ruled out. And then as we move through towards 6 a.m. it's more rain and sleet, and it would probably be sleet and wet snow still scattered around, and there'd almost certainly be some snow over the hills. And then as we move in towards midday, you can still see this rain and sleet, and perhaps a little bit of snow falling here and there, mostly over the hills. And then as we move into the afternoon, it starts to clear away. But as we look towards Tuesday, we see that second little area moving through the English Channel. And once again, we see some heavier outbreaks here, And once again, we see this turning potentially to snow in places, but again, most likely over the hills. And then as we move through into Wednesday, we see a scattering of showery outbreaks or patchy rain and sleet and snow here and there. So there is a hint of a little bit of a dusting in places, but again, like I said, it's very, very difficult to know because there's such divergence between the models, and no two models are showing the same thing at this moment in time. So it's exceptionally difficult to get an accurate forecast for this. So now we're going to have a quick look at something called a WRF model. Now this shows localized data, but to be honest with you, I would say take this with a large bucket of salt at this point. But it does show the depth of snowfall in reasonably high resolution. Now you can see as we move through, let's move through Sunday, or tomorrow should I say, nothing really interesting happening. Then as we move through in towards Monday, we start to see a little bit of stuff developing here and there, but again, it doesn't look like we will be seeing much based on this model. Then as we move through into Tuesday, we start to see a little bit more developing in a few different places, but then towards Wednesday, this model is actually showing some snowfall developing actually towards our area, and this is in the form of showers that will be coming down from the northwest. So you can actually see here it's showing a good few centimeters of snow. Now, like I said, it isn't the most trustworthy model, but it can't be completely ruled out that we could see something in this area of a good few centimeters of snow. But yeah, this is just a possibility, and a very low one at that. So now let's have a quick run through of the temperatures over the next few days, and now we'll overlay the wind arrows so you can see where that wind is coming from. And as we run it through, you can see tonight and into tomorrow morning, and we got these colours starting to turn a little bit more towards the green. Perhaps a hint of blue towards the mainland, but the wind is still coming in from the west-southwest, so that will be bringing showers. And then as we move through tomorrow, the wind slowly starts to come round a little bit more into the west, and then in towards overnight in towards the northwest briefly, and then it flips back round into the south, and then comes back round suddenly into the north. And that's as this little area of low pressure moves through, and this is based again on the French model. Then as we move through Monday morning, we can see these greens and blues with temperatures quite close to freezing up here, so 0 to 2 degrees, so looking very chilly. And then as we move through Monday, the temperatures don't really rise that much. We see these subtle greens, so perhaps up to 4 degrees in a few places. And then as we move in through Monday night, it becomes very cold. And in fact, you can actually see, I mean, this model isn't extremely high resolution, but it's high resolution enough to show you we've got these solid blues developing here. So we're going to be looking -2, maybe -3 degrees Celsius. So yeah, much colder than we've had over the last few weeks. And even through Tuesday, the temperatures don't rise that much. So we've got these greens and blues showing that temperatures will be anywhere between 0 and 2 degrees throughout the whole day on Tuesday. And then as we move through Tuesday night, very cold once again with a frost. But then on Wednesday, the temperatures come up a little bit, although fall once again as we move into the nighttime hours. And that's, of course, stays with us into Thursday when it starts to get a little bit milder. So there you have it, really. An uncertain forecast, but definitely hints of it turning, well, almost certainly turning a lot colder. Hints of it turning very cold overnight. Possibly some wintry weather around. Most likely it would seem the early hours of Monday morning, and again possibly as we move through Tuesday. But this is one of those times, like I always say, come back a little bit closer to the time, but you will have to keep up to date on each individual forecast now, because just a few hours difference will make a difference to each forecast. And it's not just us who's struggling with this. A lot of the local and national forecasters are all having the same problem, trying to work out exactly where any rain, sleet or snow will fall, and whether it will be snow or rain, and it's very, very difficult forecasting coming up over the next few days. So yeah, so definitely come back and check this again tomorrow, and we should have a little bit more detail on that by then. Goodbye for now.